Welcome back to the 6th Gear Garage. Last week, I showed how to prep and paint a master cylinder to keep it looking new for years to come. This week, I'm going to remove the old rusty master cylinder, bench bleed the new one, and install it. I'm installing a 1995 V6 pickup 1-inch master cylinder on my 85 pickup. The original one was 13/16 inch, but since upgrading to the V6 front calipers, I'm going to maximize their stopping power with the proper matching 1-inch master cylinder. To begin with, I'm placing a plastic tray that fits just right below the master cylinder to catch any dripping brake fluid. If you do get any brake fluid on paint, wipe it up immediately. Next, I'm loosening the brake lines with a flare nut wrench. Be careful if you're using a standard crescent wrench, as it's easy to round off these fittings if they're rusty. Once the fitting is loosened completely, I'm putting a plastic cap over the end to minimize dripping and allow less air into the brake line. I'm doing the same thing for the rear brake line. Unplug the level sensor and detach the harness from the clip. Now, I'm loosening the 4 bolts that hold the master cylinder to the brake booster. If they're rusty like mine, take your time loosening, tightening, re-loosening, retightening with penetrating lubricant, as I've had these studs snap right off of the brake booster on one of my old rusty parts trucks. I'll include a link to another video about properly loosening rusty fittings. After all 4 were started, I removed the lower 2 nuts first so I could pull this bracket out of the way. This might get messy, so I put a sheet of aluminum foil over the paint and funneled it down towards a plastic tray. Foil is great to have for any job where oils tend to get spilled or splashed. I keep a roll in the garage. Now I'm finishing the top 2 bolts and carefully tilting the master cylinder over the plastic tray and foil to keep the brake fluid contained. I cleaned up any drips left behind and moved the foil and tray out of the engine bay to make room for a quick side project. I'm going to install a brand new shiny master cylinder on this old, dirty, rusty brake booster. That's going to make it look even worse than it already does. So now is a perfect time to clean it up. I'm using a wire brush to clean the rusty areas, then brake cleaner to wash off any dirt and oil from the surface. I disconnected the vacuum line and tucked it out of the way. The brake lines have enough flex so that they can be repositioned a little bit. Another round of brake cleaner to clean the surface, and it's time to sand. I'm sanding quickly with 180 grit over the rusted surface to knock down any high areas and create a smooth surface for the paint. One more shot of brake cleaner and it's time to mask around the brake booster. I chose a satin black paint specially formulated to adhere to rust. I sprayed that rusty bracket too. While this dries, I have an extra step to do because I'm putting a newer model master cylinder on an older generation truck. My 85 pickup uses a round plug for the fluid level sensor, while the 1995 truck uses a rectangle shaped plug. I trust a good solder connection over any crimp connector or electrical tape. So I need to cut the round plug from the old cap and solder it to the new cap. When done properly, soldering is the best way to go for a strong connection. The new master cylinder is bone dry, so before I install it and bleed the system, I'm going to bench bleed the new master cylinder. Bench bleeding will fill the master cylinder with fluid before connecting the brake lines, making bleeding faster and easier once it's installed in a vehicle. Since I just painted mine, I'm putting a piece of cardboard between it and the metal jaws of Old Red. Once in the vise, pour some brake fluid in the reservoir. Then you'll need a tool with a rounded tip to press the piston. I'm using a large Phillips head screwdriver with a rounded end. Take a second to practice pressing in the piston to get a feel for how much force you'll need. Avoid pressing in the piston more than an inch, as it can damage the seals inside the master cylinder. Notice no fluid is coming out of the 2 holes where the brake lines connect. That's why the master cylinder needs to be bled before installing the brake lines. The new master cylinder came with plastic plugs to fit these threaded holes. You can also get these at a parts store. I'm going to bleed the front port first, so this plug will go in the rear port to seal it for now. With the rear port sealed, I'm pressing the piston in. When the piston is pressed, I'm putting my finger over the port to create a vacuum. Without being able to suck air back in, the next path of least resistance is for fluid to enter the chamber. Keep a rag handy because once the air is out, it'll squirt fluid. Then I put a plug in the front port and repeated the process for the rear port. And all I really have to watch out for is that it doesn't shoot brake fluid on anything important. With both ports bled, I'm leaving the plugs in until I'm ready to install the brake lines. I've let the paint dry and this brake booster looks 10 times better than it did before. I'm carefully fitting the new master cylinder onto the booster, trying not to scratch any of the freshly painted surfaces. With the master cylinder in place, I can put the bracket over the 2 lower studs and get the bolts started by hand before tightening them all the way with a ratchet. Now I have an extra step here because the original master cylinder had the front port on the top side, while the newer design has a front port on the driver's side. So I need to bend my brake line. I'm using a brake line forming tool to adjust the shape of the line. They're like pliers, but the end is designed to hold and evenly bend brake line tubing. Bending a brake line too much by hand is generally a bad idea since the lines can kink or collapse. This took a little planning, but the line length was exactly what I needed it to be in order to get the fitting positioned in the correct location. Next, I'm going to pull the caps off of the fittings and get them threaded into the new master cylinder one at a time. Now it's time to plug in the original harness plug I soldered onto the new master cylinder cap. Oh, I almost forgot to connect this vacuum line I removed when I painted the brake booster. Top off the reservoir to the max fill line and you're ready to bleed the brakes. The last step is to bleed the brakes at all 4 corners of the vehicle until all of the air is out of the system. After I was all done, I took the truck for a test drive and the pedal felt much more firm. And now when I'm under the hood working on this truck, I don't have to look at this old, ugly, rusty master cylinder and brake booster. Although, now with those both looking great, I have other parts under the hood that now look like they could really use a refresh. But this isn't a show truck, and the hood is rarely opened outside of my garage, so I'll get to refinishing those parts down the road. With summer around the corner, going through the brake system was a crucial step before I attempt to tow these guys with my truck. Yep, I'm going to tow 2,000 pounds with a 4-cylinder that was rated at 97 horsepower when brand new. We'll see how it goes. Please give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful. Be sure to subscribe for more how-to videos and updates here at the 6th Gear Garage.